Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, in our ongoing study in Paul and the Faithfulness of God by N.T. Wright. We have a great recall triad to look at now. It's on a critical portion of the book. Professor Wright says concentrate on this lesson, so this recall triad will be important for us to encapsulate and to get a good graphic picture of this lesson. It takes up pages 490 to 510. It deals with the casting away of Israel. Let's begin with block one. We're going to look at the three moments of promise, paraptoma, and pleonazo. Promise, paraptoma, and pleonazo. Under promise, the essential subplot of the Abraham promise, Israel has been called to be a light to the people in darkness, according to Romans 2:19. To do so, they have been entrusted with the oracles of God, says Romans 5:2. But Israel was not faithful to this divine call, from Romans 2:19 and 20. We move on to block 2, the paraptoma. You've got the epibole, casting away, in Romans 9:14 to 29, especially verse 21. Paul says the same clay of Israel can become honor or dishonor. In Romans 2:19 and 20, although as a paradox, Paul does still affirm Israel's role as light to the world, in spite of their faithlessness to their calling. Now, the concept of paraptoma, Romans 5:15, because of Israel's paraptoma false step and stumbling, the reconciliation of the world will still come about, even through the offense of Israel, even through the paraptoma offense of Israel. God's promise will still be fulfilled. Now, block 3, we're going to take a look at the pleonazo. Promise and paraptoma lead to provision of the faithful Messiah. Pleonazo, Romans 5:20, the law entered so that sin could be filled out. Pleonazo, filled out, as even encompassing Israel's faithlessness to its divine called vocation. This becomes the hina, or the so that, of God's sovereign purpose. Galatians 2:19, this paradoxical verse now becomes something that makes sense, and Paul says, through the law I died to the law. Paul's redefined story of Israel consists of the three moments of promise, paraptoma, and pleonazo. His rewritten story of Israel is the promise to Abraham, the paraptoma, false step of Israel failing in their divine call, and the pleonazo, filling up of sin to include that failure of vocation, so that the apocalyptic unveiling of the Messiah could come. So we have a great graphic triad picture to help us to encapsulate this lesson. It's really an important lesson. Before we get into part 3, Professor Wright wanted his readers to fully comprehend his approach to soteriology in understanding Paul, and the fact that the subplot of the promise to Abraham is critical, and the failure of Israel in its vocation is critical. We must recall these points in order to be accurate with our look at the theology of Paul, says N.T. Wright. So that's going to wrap up our recall triad, but just remember promise, paraptoma, and pleonazo. Promise, paraptoma, and pleonazo. And we will pick up next time with page 511. We're getting pretty close to the end of the first book that takes up part 1 and 2.